Cyberpunk 2077 is one of my favorite games ever, and I'm sure many of you out there share the same sentiment with me, and I would love to see more content come to the game and the franchise as a whole, but what exactly does the future hold for this developing franchise? In this video, we will look at the future of Cyberpunk 2077 and future games in the franchise, but before we get into it, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest Cyberpunk news. When Cyberpunk 2077 launched in December of 2020, it was one of the most anticipated games of the decade. However, the game's release was plagued by technical issues, performance problems, and a wave of controversy surrounding its unfinished state, especially on older consoles like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. CD Projekt Red, the beloved game developer behind The Witcher 3, faced immense backlash from both fans and industry critics. Lawsuits, refund policies, and a delisting from the PlayStation Store further added to the turmoil that this game saw at release. But despite all of this, CD Projekt Red committed to redeeming the game, rolling out major updates and patches over the next 4 years to fix its broken state. Over the years since the game was originally released, significant improvements have been made, culminating in the critically acclaimed Phantom Liberty expansion, which redefined the game's mechanics, AI, and story depth. The most recent patches for the game, including the 2.0 update which launched alongside the Phantom Liberty expansion, have fundamentally reworked the game's core systems. AI has been vastly improved in the game, making NPCs and enemy combatants more dynamic in your gameplay. Vehicle combat in the game has also been overhauled, allowing for more action-packed chases, while the police system now feels more organic and responsive to the player. Additionally, new perks and cyberware systems give players more freedom in how they customize their version of V. These updates have not only fixed the game, but also elevated it beyond what was originally promised by the developers. Many fans, now myself included, consider Cyberpunk 2077 to be one of the best RPGs available on the market today, showcasing CD Projekt Red's ability to turn a disastrous launch into a triumph of a game. After Phantom Liberty, the player count saw a massive surge, surpassing 1 million daily active players. While numbers have slightly declined since the DLC's peak, Cyberpunk 2077 still enjoys a healthy and engaged player base. The current player numbers for Cyberpunk 2077 remain relatively high considering it's a single-player game that's over 4 years old at this point. Recent peak concurrent player counts for the game are just under 50,000 players on Steam alone. Mods have also played a huge role in keeping the community invested in this game, with fan-made enhancements pushing the game's graphics, AI, and role-playing depth even further. With Cyberpunk 2077 now in a stable and enjoyable state, many fans are eager to see what's next for Night City. Will CD Projekt Red continue supporting the game, or will the studio shift its focus entirely to the new projects that they're currently developing? Let me know down in the comments what you think about the current state of Cyberpunk 2077. Historically, CD Projekt Red has been known for delivering multiple expansions for their major games. The Witcher 3 received Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, both of which were praised for their quality and depth. However, CD Projekt Red has confirmed that Phantom Liberty will be Cyberpunk 2077's only major expansion. This decision for them likely stems from the studio's shift towards developing Cyberpunk Orion, the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077. The studio wants to move all of their future projects to Unreal Engine 5 as well, and leave their in-house Red Engine behind. But unlike The Witcher 3, which was built on a stable engine from the start of development, Cyberpunk 2077 required years of fixes, making long-term DLC support less viable since they want to move on to their new projects eventually. And although no more major expansions are currently planned, that does not mean CD Projekt Red is finished with Cyberpunk 2077 entirely. Smaller updates, free DLC packs, and possibly even new side missions could still be released to maintain player engagement over the next several years. Recently, we saw the 2.2 update released for Cyberpunk 2077, with new content in the game's photo mode, vehicle customization was expanded, character creation got some new options, and much more, including a side quest based around Balatro. They also just released update 2.21 in the last few weeks that had major fixes that were needed since the previous update, and they also added support for NVIDIA DLSS 4 and 50 series graphics cards. Cyberpunk 2077 has a rich world with untapped potential. Night City is filled with corporations, gangs, and underground factions that could be further explored in additional content going forward. New mission packs, weapons, vehicles, and cyberware could eventually be released as post-launch updates to the game, keeping it fresh for returning players for the next several years until Cyberpunk Orion eventually releases, which is probably closer to 2030. They also announced that Virtuous, a third-party developer, worked on the 2.2 update, so these outside studios could support the game going forward while CD Projekt Red works on the sequel Cyberpunk Orion. Many fans of the game have expressed interest in DLC expansions that explore the wider Cyberpunk universe, including areas outside of Night City. Pacifica's abandoned districts, the orbital colonies mentioned in-game, or even space travel to the moon could be explored in future content. While this is obviously unlikely at this point for Cyberpunk 2077, these ideas could shape the upcoming sequel Cyberpunk Orion. Let me know down in the comments what you think about possible updates and DLC plans for Cyberpunk 2077 going forward. CD Projekt Red has already confirmed that a sequel to the game, currently codenamed Project Orion, is in development. This news obviously excited fans, as it suggests that CD Projekt Red is committed to expanding the Cyberpunk universe beyond just one game. With 30 million units sold of the base game and 8 additional million units sold of the Phantom Liberty expansion, it was probably very obvious that they would eventually develop a sequel for the game, but I'm glad that they're jumping on it now so we don't have to wait forever for a new game from this series. The studio has learned valuable lessons from Cyberpunk 2077's development and its eventual redemption arc. Given all of this, the sequel is likely to be built on more stable technology and a clearer development roadmap to avoid another disastrous launch. And of course, The Witcher 4 will release in the next few years and we'll get a clear indication of whether they've learned their lesson or not. Hopefully The Witcher 4 also releases in a stable state in the next couple years. But a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 could introduce an entirely new protagonist, perhaps even allowing players to create their own character from different factions, such as corporate executive, a nomad, or a gang member. Expanding the story beyond just Night City and the broader Cyberpunk universe could be a very cool possibility for them, including places like Tokyo or the orbital habitats could open up new storyline and opportunities for the series. But they've already built out Night City entirely, so I really don't want to see them completely abandon it because it's honestly a really cool city. It just needs more addition and probably more verticality to the gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, these gameplay mechanics in the sequel could be revolutionized, improving hacking systems, deeper cyberware interaction, and more dynamic city ecosystems could make the world feel even more alive in the game's sequel. Imagine a world where every choice you make alters the structure of the city itself, impacting corporations, crime levels, and public perception. With Cyberpunk Orion being developed in Unreal Engine 5 instead of CD Projekt Red's proprietary Red engine, the game could achieve unparalleled visual fidelity and stability from day one. But we all know Unreal Engine 5 is not without its flaws, so hopefully they can overcome those as well and have a great launch with this next game. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the sequel Cyberpunk Orion and what they might have in store for us in the future. CD Projekt Red has been very transparent about its long-term commitment to the Cyberpunk IP. The studio has also stated that lessons learned from this game will shape the sequel Cyberpunk Orion, ensuring a smoother development process and a more refined experience at launch. And beyond just the sequel, CD Projekt Red has also expressed interest in expanding the Cyberpunk universe across multiple forms of media, including potential TV adaptations or even a new animated series following the success of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. And alongside Cyberpunk Orion's development, CD Projekt Red is also working on the next Witcher game, codenamed Polaris, which I guess we now know after the Game Awards is called The Witcher 4 and is featuring Ciri as the main protagonist. But this has led some fans to worry that Cyberpunk and its franchise may take a backseat to the Witcher series and all of their other projects in development. However, the studio at CD Projekt Red has committed to growing both franchises in parallel to each other, ensuring that Cyberpunk remains an integral part of their identity as a studio. They have also opened up 2 new studios in Boston and Vancouver to focus solely on Cyberpunk Orion's development. The Cyberpunk community is filled with theories about what's next for it. Some believe that Cyberpunk 2077 could receive one final surprise DLC that they're currently developing in secret, despite CD Projekt Red's obvious claims otherwise. Other fans speculate that Cyberpunk Orion will feature multiple cities rather than just Night City, allowing for a more expansive world for players to explore. Honestly, that idea is very exciting to think about. I wonder where they will actually take us if they expand upon this idea. Many fans of this series are also hoping for the return of V and Johnny Silverhand in some capacity, although I think this is probably unlikely. But given the multiple endings of Cyberpunk 2077, integrating a direct sequel would be challenging. But CD Projekt Red has tackled similar narrative challenges in the Witcher series. CD Projekt Red has also shown that it listens to player feedback, and the success of Phantom Liberty proves that well-crafted expansions can breathe new life into the game. Fans' expectations will likely influence Cyberpunk Orion's development, with CD Projekt Red taking notes on what worked and what didn't in the first game. Modding communities have also played a significant role in expanding Cyberpunk 2077's overall potential. If CD Projekt Red fully embraces mod support in Cyberpunk Orion, it could create a game with near limitless possibilities for the player. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 is already one of the most modded games on Nexus Mods. But despite its troubled launch, Cyberpunk 2077 has now emerged as a shining example of redemption in the gaming industry. With Phantom Liberty and the recent updates, the game is now what fans always hoped it would be. With no more major expansions currently planned for the game, CD Projekt Red's commitment to the Cyberpunk universe remains strong going forward. The upcoming Cyberpunk Orion sequel, the potential for new spin-off content, and the possibility of deeper multimedia storytelling ensures that Night City and beyond will continue to captivate players for many years to come. And as technology advances, Cyberpunk is perfectly positioned to push the boundaries of open-world RPGs, and CD Projekt Red has been no stranger to that in the past. Whether through AI-driven NPCs, fully immersive cities, or new narrative possibilities, the future of Cyberpunk 2077 and its successor is more promising than ever before. And one thing here is for certain, Cyberpunk is here to stay, and it's just now getting started. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest Cyberpunk news. And if you're looking for something else to watch, click one of the videos you're seeing on screen right now. I will see you there.